Welcome back to the See-Through Podcast, a podcast that creates transparency on disabilities and the champions with them. My name is Lance Johnson, and I am your host. This is episode 8, and I'm not going to lie, this episode brings it. There's a ton of great audio bites present in this episode, and all of that is due to my guest, Angel Adorno. Angel is a 56-year-old New Yorker and is a man of various interesting hobbies, with the main one being he practices Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. And I think he may have sold me on the sport, but you'll hear about that later. Besides Jiu Jitsu, Angel also is a radio host and sometimes does stand-up comedy. But on an academic note, Angel just got his master's degree in vocational rehabilitation. And while all of that is already interesting enough, Angel does all of that while being blind. Angel is blind due to fetal alcohol syndrome, which is a condition that results from alcohol exposure during the mother's pregnancy. Fetal alcohol syndrome can cause brain damage and growth problems, and in Angel's case, it affected his vision. As I said, Angel likes to do stand-up comedy, so naturally, this episode is the first time that I've had to decide if I wanted to censor some of the things we discussed. I did cut some things out, but I also kept a few things in. So I'm giving the listeners out there a warning about that now, so don't say I didn't warn you. Anyways, that's enough of me talking. Let's get right into my conversation with Angel. Hey Angel, welcome to the podcast.
How are you? Thanks. Happy to be here.
So Angel, let's get right into it. Tell the listeners about yourself. Like, how old are you? You know, where you live, and what type of vision disability you have.
Okay, I am 56. I started Jiu Jitsu and when I was 50, going on 51. I'm based out of New York City, and I have an interesting eye condition. My eye condition, I technically have what is called retinal degeneration, which was caused by another condition called fetal alcohol syndrome. And fetal alcohol syndrome is when the mother drinks alcohol while she's pregnant. And the symptoms that you have a smaller head than usual. You don't grow as fast. You have tiny eyes. You have wrinkle on the top, on the sides of your eyes a little bit. Not wrinkles, but they like crinkle in. And your upper lip is thinner than your bottom lip, which is an interesting thing, because when I did this for a class that I was doing, I had to research it. I'm like looking at the list. You got a list, and you go, "Oh wow, yeah, I got that." I was born at 2.5 pounds. I stayed in the hospital from June until late September of 1964, and at the time, because not that many people didn't tell me what was going on, but I thought it was because I needed to gain weight. Later on, I found out as I started doing research, it was detoxing me to get all the crap out of me. Other things that could happen from this condition, that I could have had, but maybe there's sometimes cognitive issues and a whole bunch of other little tiny things that I don't have, which I'm lucky, but it could have turned out worse.
So it sounds like when you have fetal alcohol syndrome, it affects more things than your vision. And it sounds like you feel the effects of some of those other.
The funny thing is, I didn't know about some of these effects. And then when I started comparing, you're born a little smaller, you don't grow as fast, your limbs, little tiny things. Some of the other issues, like I said, you have cognitive issues, which I don't think I have. But then some of the people on here that do suffer from it, some of them end up getting, a little bit of brain damage, or they have issues fitting in and lack of control. So I personally think I was lucky, because I could have ended up a lot worse.
Were you born without vision, or did you have some vision and then it went away?
I had some vision, and as I got older, it started to deteriorate. So when I hit 13 or 14, my vision started going downhill. And then by the time I was 18 and a half, going 19, I lost my vision 2 months before I graduated high school. So it was a real weird thing. I had good friends that stepped in. I had one friend, and I lost track of her, and I tried looking for her on Facebook, but she was a blessing to me because she would pick me up every day, take me to school, and then drop me off at home. So she was part of the reason I graduated.
Wow.
So so it was an interesting thing. You wake up one day, you go to watch TV, all of a sudden, like everything's smoky. That's the way it started out. Like, picture a whole bunch of steam is in front of your television, and I get up and I'm waving the stuff away, and it doesn't go away. I was eligible for a corneal transplant because my cornea ruptured too, but they couldn't do it because they said the retina degenerated, and the retina was degenerating at the time, and they said, "Look, we could put you through this, but you'll go blind all over again." So I figured, okay, leave it.
Yeah, I have my vision disability is called retinitis pigmentosa, and it's a
I know about. Yeah, I was told about it, and I have friends that have suffered from that. It's interesting condition. It's a slow torture.
compared to some people my age with retinitis pigmentosa, I'm very well off. I have a lot of central vision left, and my peripheral vision definitely is missing.
Yeah,
And
of course.
and at nighttime, it's very hard for me to like navigate, dark areas that are foreign to me.
Oh yeah, of course.
I'm basically, all I'm saying is I'm familiar with how important a healthy retina is.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, for that condition, it could be slowed down a little bit because there are ways to slow down rather than having as fast. But I had a friend who was a nurse and she was a midwife, and she had it and went to nursing school, became what she became, and at the end, she ended up having to leave the profession, and she ended up working with me. And I felt that she was handling pretty good, but I was the one that was upset because this is a woman that brought babies into the world, man. You can't
Yeah.
have no better job than bringing in babies. So it's all about adjustment.
It is all about adjustment, and that's kind of, it's a pickle that I find myself in. I'm sure you find yourself in, is like planning for the future can be kind of difficult. Right now I'm in a career field. I am a video editor, but I don't know how long I can do this.
Yeah.
Just being honest with you, but I'm trying to make the best of it. Right now I can do it, and right now I'm doing it. So
That's the best way you could do it. Think about it, man. Don't think about what's going to happen later. Do it now and enjoy it now, and
yes,
you'll just get into some other type of editing.
that's what I'm thinking, man. And that's kind of why I started this podcast, because it's audio based. I'm not doing video,
Right.
and I can edit the audio, and I feel like this is something that I see not working against me in the future. So I'm like full steams ahead on this thing.
Oh no, a lot of the recording programs do work with screen readers. So, you just have to have a decent screen reader and get used to the voice and everything, and you'll be in business.
Yeah. So, man, going back a little bit. So
Yes.
you were born with the fetal alcohol syndrome,
Because yes. Mm-hmm.
and that was due to your mother's drinking habit.
Oh yeah.
Are you close with your mother?
No. Here's the thing. My mother passed away at the age of. She passed away 13 years ago, and she was 56. We weren't exactly that close. I was there, but there was, it's like thing when you get older and you start asking questions, especially when parents mess up, they don't want to tell you much.
Yeah.
Especially if it's because of them that you had, I found out the story after she passed away. I mean, it was cause and effect. I mean, she was at the time, my mother got pregnant when my mother was 16. So at the time she went through some issues. She ended up homeless on the street. And sometimes people go through this thing that when they feel helpless and they feel that they don't have anything left, they just go down a horrible road.
Sure.
And but the funny thing is, I made it. Even though I was born 5.5. I was born 4.5 months early. So I mean,
4.5 months.
like I was born. Okay, I was supposed to be born. I was born in June, right? But I was supposed to be born around September.
Wow.
Close to it. So, but no, like as you get old, I came to terms with everything. It's like one of these things. I tend to question why would you do something like that, but when you try to question something that somebody else did, you're like a dog chasing your tail. It never ends. So you know, I'm the only one in my family like this. I have two sisters. Both of them are so normal. Each one of them has 20/20 vision. I have two daughters. My daughters are fine. When the first one was born, I had her checked out for like a year and a half.
Okay.
So the doctor said what I came up with is not hereditary. So it's not in my DNA, so to speak.
Gotcha.
It's not a flaw. It's not anything like that. It's because of negligence or somebody not caring while you're in them.
Yeah. RP, what I have is
Yeah.
it's hereditary. So
Yeah, it's unfortunately it's in the genes, man. RP is an interesting thing. It affects everybody differently.
yeah,
Some
it
people some
does.
people have side effects early, some people have side effects late.
Hmm.
But that was part of the reason why I ended up getting my degree in vocation counseling, because eventually I want to actually see if I could get a job with the VA and help people who are going through a whole bunch of disabilities, because I've been on both sides of the fence. I've had vision and I don't have any now. So I can understand both, which is a big help.
Yeah, that's a good way to be. I think to want to use your experiences to help others in similar situations. So, with that being said, you just got your master's degree, right, in vocational
Yeah,
rehabilitation.
a couple of months ago, yeah, I started in 2017, uh, January, and because I technically graduated in 2019, but there were issues because I had to finish off an internship, and the COVID didn't let it happen. So I ended up graduating in May of 2020.
Hey, that's recent.
Yeah.
How long was the process of going to the university?
I was going to school 3 years, summer. I mean, spring, summer, winter, and fall. I was going I was going spring, summer, and winter. So I was basically going full time all the time.
In what school did you attend?
Oh, I got my degree from Hofstra University right out here in Hempstead, Long Island.
Awesome. And is that where you're located currently, or do you live somewhere in the city?
I'm right now in Queens, New York. So in order for me to, there were a couple of ways I could actually, I took two buses. I took a thing called Accessoride and Able Ride.
Okay.
And what I did was see, you have to coordinate these two rides. So Able Ride would pick me up by a certain time, and then they would have to take me back to Norfolk, and I would have to plan my ride so I wouldn't have to. They would have to be coordinated because a few times I got there late and I missed my accessor ride. So that was my whole thing for 3 years. At the time, I had a seeing eye dog, and so my dog would be with me. Now I don't have a dog because she passed away in 2019 in June.
I hate to hear
So
that, man. But yeah, it sounds like quite a commute.
now, mind you, if I drove, it would be 20 minutes.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate, right?
Yes, I mean, what happened? I thought we were supposed to get Google cars this year. I was going to buy a Google car. I
Oh
wanted a
yeah,
Google
I
car.
plan on buying a self-driving car whenever they're out.
Yeah. So
Um,
I thought I was going to get a Google car. So I figured if I had a Google car, it'd be great, but didn't happen.
yeah, so yeah, it sounds like you really wanted to go to school to go through all that trouble.
I gave up a lot because I was a stand-up comedian, and when school came around, I couldn't do the whole comedy thing no more. And comedy for me was like my therapy. So it was interesting. And then I got asked to do a show at school. But my problem is I'm
Okay.
like a dirty comic.
Oh,
And at the time I said no, and I told my professors no, because I don't want to offend anybody. Oh no, mm-mm. So, I still write, but I stopped all the comedy. So eventually the comedy's gonna be back one day.
yeah, I didn't know you did stand-up comedy. That's interesting. So it sounds like you had a dirty sense of humor?
Oh, please.
When you say
No,
dirty, do you mean like curse words, or do you mean like
just
topics?
topics, curse words, anything, any type of sick, twisted debauchery that people don't normally want to think about or even want to say out loud. I thought it, and I said it 9 times out of 10. Everybody laughed, but a few times, I would make jokes about the disabled,
Okay.
right? And people would groan and moan. I go, no, 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 and I would tell my audience, you guys think this, So, I mean, I have shows. I have shows that I posted on YouTube, and
I'll
I
have
have
to
a
go
couple.
check those out.
I've done so many shows as a stand-up comic, practicing in open mics. I've done a total of 190 shows,
Oh, that's a
and
lot.
yeah, so a lot of them on recording. But and at the time, I looked like some of the shows. If you ever watch them, I looked like a comic. I was fat. I walked out. I had a trench coat. I mean, it was just me and my dog. I mean, at the time, I had a different dog. So it's an interesting experience. I mean, I listen to my stuff and I go, oh my God, why would I say that? But I enjoy the whole stage thing. So that's the one thing. That's the one thing I miss that I gave up. I kept the jujitsu. The jujitsu always stayed with me. I mean, I had a choice to either do jujitsu or comedy. And I was thinking, no, 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 no. I get more out of the jujitsu.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. How about before we dive into talking about jujitsu, let me backtrack a little bit. The way I got in contact with you was through my friend MK,
Yes,
the
strong man.
yeah, he's a big dude for sure. And I work with MK on some video editing projects. And basically I was talking to him about this podcast I'm doing, and he immediately shot out your name.
Yeah, he told me.
And he had nothing but great things to say about you.
Oh, he's great, man. He's very, for anybody who doesn't know MK is very strong, but he doesn't use his strength in jiu-jitsu. He's pure technique.
Okay.
Pure technique. He's like 6 feet something, and I'm like this little guy who's 5'2", and his technique is excellent. He never uses his strength at all. And he does to a point, but he doesn't muscle. Jiu-jitsu is never about muscle; it's about technique. So,
yeah, I'd love to hear more about that. But I think first, for the listeners out there who are not really that familiar with jiu-jitsu, can you kind of set that up, tell people a little bit about the sport?
Okay, jiu-jitsu was originally it came from Brazil, and it was created, and a couple of documentaries on it, but it was basically created as a form of self-defense it's weaponless self-defense for big people, women, for anybody, and you don't need a weapon. It's basically wrestling, grappling, and it involves various types of locks, chokes, different submissions, and all you use is your arms and legs. No striking, no type of punching, no type of kicking. Nothing. You start up standing, and then it's all about floor game. You have a floor game, and it's about mastering one opponent. It's like a chess game, and it's interesting. It's an interesting sport.
Yeah. So what I find most interesting about it is when it comes to your situation is most people that practice jiu-jitsu are sighted.
Yes.
How does being blind affect your training and the way you approached jiu-jitsu?
Well, like if for like the most people, they'll watch the instructor or the professor of the academy do a move a couple of times. Me, depending on the drilling partner I have, and when I first started out jiu-jitsu as a white belt, I couldn't get anybody to roll with me. People were slightly either nervous or intimidated because of the fact, I think it was a little bit of the blind issue. And then white belts in jiu-jitsu have a weird reputation of being cowboys. Some of them have unlike some of them are crazy. Yeah, because you have this white belt and that's always trying to have something to prove. So
is a white belt just someone who's beginning?
Way beginning.
Okay. Is that what you start with, a white belt?
Yeah, you start with a white, then you go from blue, then from blue you go to purple, then from purple you go to black, and then from black you go to from purple you go to brown, then from brown you go to black.
Okay.
So at the time I had a hard time getting people to roll with me. And as I started in July of 2015, I got my My first blue belt. When did I get it? I got it in 2017 November.
Okay.
Yeah, after because I competed before that, but I went to Phoenix because I had a fear of competing and I also had a fear of flying. So I uh, I finally mastered both of them, and I went to a different state because I figured if I get beat up there, nobody knows me. But after a while, after some people assume that because the vision doesn't work, your body's messed up, and they're like nervous, which is understandable. But now a couple of years later, you know, people come to me if there's a move, they'll do it on me twice,
Okay.
2 to 3 times, so I can get a feeling for it. Then I'll do it on them, and they talk me through it. And after a while, it catches on. Now that I've been in the sport for a while, been doing it, it's a little bit more on. It slowly comes to you. It's like a slow leak. It slowly leaks into your brain, like, oh, this, So it's been interesting. I wish there would be more people who are visually impaired that would do this, but unfortunately, a lot of blind people have sedentary lifestyles, which they're heavy and they don't want to do anything. And it's by the computer, and it's crazy.
So you would recommend jujitsu to the visually impaired community?
Big time. It's a full time workout. When you do jujitsu, when I was over jujitsu, you burn 1,300 calories. So yeah, I recommend jujitsu for anybody, and it doesn't matter how old you are. One of my coach, my coach Alan Spindell. He's 66. And he took me under his wing and started teaching me a couple of years ago. So it was because of him that I actually started competing, because I didn't even come in. I was afraid. They have this thing called open mat where you can come in and roll with other people. I was paranoid of that. A lot of things I was afraid of, and spin got me out of everything. He's like, no, you got to do this, you got to do that. So now, you know, um, it's a sided game. It's a sided person sport, but I'm still into. I did one time have a match with somebody, and he didn't know I couldn't see, which was hilarious. He goes, he goes. I noticed that your. I noticed. He goes. I noticed that your approach is touch. And I said, yeah, that's because I'm blind. He goes, you are? I said, yeah. He goes, oh wow.
That's awesome. That's awesome that he didn't know
Yeah.
until later on. Yeah, I have a good buddy of mine. Shout out to him. His name is John Nuns. He lives out in California, and he practices jujitsu. And I was talking to him at one of our friends' weddings
Hmm.
about it, because it's something that's it's fairly new to his world, and he's kind of dived deep into it, and he absolutely loves it. And I was asking him about it. I was like, "Do you think, with my vision, that I would be able to participate in it?" And he was like, "Yeah, I don't see why not."
Yeah, there's a gentleman with one arm that does jujitsu. I mean, he has one arm, but he was born with an interesting condition where his right arm he doesn't have an elbow.
Okay.
So this gentleman, he has like from above the elbow, and he's really good. I can't remember his name right now, but he's awesome. I mean, so he compensates, because
Is that at your the place you train at?
no, he's from California somewhere. I wish I'm the only visually impaired person in my academy.
Where do you train at? Let's get that out there.
I train at a place called Clockwork Jiu Jitsu, and it's in Lower Manhattan. And it's at 650 Broadway. And I'm the first visually impaired person to ever go to the school and ever receive a belt from the school.
Okay. Yeah. It's how does that feel? Like, do you think if you went anywhere else, there'd be? I mean, it just sounds like no matter where you went, you would be the only person who.
Yeah, but let me tell you, I trained in Phoenix. I did a competition in Phoenix, and I got there a couple of days to acclimate. And I went to a couple of jujitsu classes and a couple of I got invited to various schools, which is so cool. One guy tells me, if you ever move here, you can go for free. I'm like, wow. I mean, the guy offered me a free pass, and I think jujitsu is jujitsu, and if somebody likes to teach, they'll teach anybody, because by teaching you get better yourself. So I'm always going to be the only visually impaired person. I wish I wouldn't, but that's just the way it is right now. But I don't mind because jujitsu people are so cool when it comes to teaching, and all they want to do is teach and drill and roll. And you know, I always tell everybody we're all the same on the mats. It doesn't matter. I've had great jujitsu matches with girls. I mean, there are women at my academy. There are maybe 5 of them right now that have reputations of giving a guy a good match, and I'm talking about these girls can go like guys. Some of them, a lot of them are even better than some of the guys I know. And there was one girl who she had a beautiful she had a beautiful technique of choking people, and she just choked 5 of us back to back. And me, she choked me 3 times and the reason she choked me 3 times because she did this thing and it was beautiful. I'm going, wow. So I said, listen, do it to me again, and just do it slow. And what she didn't know, because she noticed it later, she would choke, her fingers would spread, so she would cradle the neck, and it was just a beautiful experience. So the girls are just as interesting as the guys, and some of these women had lines. That's and most of the guys they would beat the guys because some of these girls were purple belts and brown belt, but their the way they would compete was is a beautiful thing.
It sounds like jujitsu can be basically it's a fair game for anyone who wants to do it. And
Yeah,
and I
exactly.
would you say there's a common misconception of what Brazilian jiu-jitsu is? Do you think people think it's like UFC stuff, going on the regular? Like I know that stuff's infused in MMA, but
Right.
like in terms of training and practicing and the community, it sounds like the people at least where you train, they're not, they're obviously tough people, but they're not, they're
Oh,
not trying to murder you every
no,
practice.
no. Let me tell you, it's all about trust, and it's a humbling experience also because the part with trust here, you're having a practice match against somebody that you trust enough to where they'll get you, but they're not trying to take you out. They'll choke you. I had a girl get me on a move called a triangle. And that's where you basically choke somebody with your pull the arm in, and they choke you with their legs at the same time. And this girl just got this triangle out of me out of nowhere. So as long as you know how to tap, meaning tapping is either you say tap or you tap your hand and that says, okay, I quit, you got me. If you're smart enough, to tap, you're never gonna get hurt. And 9 times out of 10, nobody wants to hurt you in jiu-jitsu because if you get a reputation, and there's some guys in some of these schools, my school has 1 or 2 of them, all the schools have, there are guys that have a particular type of reputation where nobody wants to roll with them because they bring it on too hard. Um, so it's all about trust, and it's humbling because you leave and you go, wow, I did this. This is where I messed up. And people, the misconception, people see that you have the jiu-jitsu gi, and the jiu-jitsu martial arts gis look like karate, so they think just kicking and punching. And then you got to explain to them, no, it's grappling, and no, you got to do this and you got to do that. So if you know technique, and you're it's fair game. I've had jiu-jitsu with a few kids as young as 9, and there was a little girl, my friend, my coach Juan has a daughter, 9 years old, and I have the weird habit that when I roll against a white belt or somebody and they make a mistake, I sort of like stop the match and I go, listen, this is where you messed up, and I don't want nobody to catch you in this, because you do have some upper belts that like getting lower belts in certain moves, which I'm not too crazy about. So I'm trying to teach this little girl a move, and as I'm teaching her, she ran around, choked me. She literally ran 1 minute. And I'm wait, and I go, but I was talking. She just applied it. So in jiu-jitsu, you could be tapped by anybody. One day you could be the hammer. One day you could be the nail. It depends. And either way, you got to be gracious and you got to accept. Okay, I was lucky today. It's like anything. You could be walking on the street, find a $20 bill, or you could be walking on the street and lose $20. You never know.
Yeah, that's very very interesting perspective on it. And it sounds like your personality can kind of come out on the mat?
Well, you're creative. If you're creative and you enjoy it, if you enjoy something, it definitely comes out. You know, I enjoy that I could learn. I enjoy learning from other people. There are times I never knew that I could do something, and somebody go, "Yeah, dude, you could do this," or you could do. I'm like, "Wow!" So I'm always grateful, for anybody, for anybody who trains with me, and it's always good because when you have a good training partner and they train you, they tell you good match, and they tell you it was great. You get a hug and you go on, and next time it's like, hey, when you're gonna be around again, and if you give somebody a good match, they're always gonna be. My thing is, I don't try not to win. If I could beat you, I will. But my whole thing is to last the 6 minutes. You know, to quote from the Rocky movie, I just want to make it go the distance, and that's what I enjoy. I'm not all about who I could tap. The only other thing is if you're into it and somebody's about to get you in a move that's going to hurt, tap right away. Like if somebody gets you in an arm bar, and you know where it's going because automatically when you get an arm bar, it's basically I'll describe it. An arm bar is basically the person grabs your arm, puts it up against their chest, and then as they go backwards, they pinch your arm. They pinch your bottom part of your arm with their knees. Okay, so what happened is they pinch it, and so they're in a weird position to where they push up with their hips, and the elbow's not made to go. The elbow only goes one way. So instead of waiting until the guy has my arm in there and he starts to pull the pressure on, as soon as I know he's falling backwards, tap. Yeah, but I didn't get you. Yeah, you were going to. Now I've gotten to the point where I don't resist and I go with him and I turn. So if you go with the move and you turn, you can get out of it. But if you resist, you know, it's all good though.
It sounds like what would be fun about it is the unpredictability
Yeah, the
of it.
unpredictability, and then if you have people that train with you and they go, "This is what you did wrong," a true jujitsu person will try and correct you what you did wrong so you don't do it again. But the thing is, once they teach you what you did wrong, when you try to do something else on them, they'll come up and get you with something else. Oh, don't mind me. That's my. I have it. I have everything that talks. When you're blind, everything talks. Your computer, your phone, your clocks, whatever. So
Oh, that's completely fine, man. No worries there. Yeah. So on the note of jujitsu, I wanted to talk about the organization that you are a co-founder of. It's called the No Limits Jiu-Jitsu Organization.
yeah, it's called No Limits Jiu-Jitsu Foundation.org.
Yeah. Can you tell me about that?
Okay, well, it was started in late 2017 because I jumped into the jiu-jitsu lifestyle really. I jumped in face first because at the time I was working, when I first started it, I was working for the government as a contractor. They let me go. But before that, when I first started jiu-jitsu, I'm 5'2" and I was weighing 215 pounds when I first started out. And I was heavy. So if anybody was to look at some of my comedy videos, I was fat. I had the double chin. I went from size 46 to a size 32. So I went from an extra large to a medium in let's see, from into a year and a half. So right now, my highest body weight is 164. So I went down. So automatically my health increased, and I didn't really change anything. It's just when you put on that gi, and the gi is heavy duty canvas, and you sweat. I mean, it gets so crazy that there are sweat puddles. I stepped in full sweat puddles. And that's another thing. You can't be grossed out when you do this because you get sweat from other people dripping on you.
Mm-hmm.
You get moves where you're literally your head's between somebody's groin and they're choking you. You can't be squeamish because it's all about it's all about the jujitsu. So it could get pretty gross sometimes. But see, you don't notice that it's gross until you take off your gi because the same person that you're rolling with is in the same position. Like I was telling you about girls. There are girls. There was one girl that Her hair was plastered to her head. I'm talking about, she was sweaty, nasty, dirty. Then she comes out later, and she was wearing heels, and she smelled like perfume. And I'm like, whoa, I couldn't accept that. It just like, go, wait a minute. What, you were just, she goes, yeah, I just, that's what showers are for. So, you can't be squeamish. And where I'm at in New York City, there's no air conditioning. There are fans maybe, but the owner of the school doesn't like the fans. So when I first started in July of 2015, it was July 11th. It was 97 degrees outside, and it was 112 in the dojo. Because it's all insulated with rubber mats. You have the walls, and you only have one window all the way in the front. So it gets nasty. I mean, you have to wear a rash guard, and that's basically to keep you from scratching yourself. And it got so bad that I sometimes don't wash my gis right away. And I walked into my bedroom one day, and I had a gi in a hamper, and I'm going, what the hell? That smell. And I go into the hamper, and it was my gi. It was still damp. And this was Wednesday. It was still damp, and it's just gross. So you can't be grossed out by this sport because you get sweaty. You really do. It's and it's like a thing of honor. If you have a sweaty gi, you've been working.
All right, yeah. So that's kind of like I played football in high school.
Yeah,
and I remember how the pads could get by the end of the week.
Yeah.
So I can only. It's probably worse than that.
Yeah. So the reason I started this organization was because I had such a sedentary lifestyle. And at the time, when I did research, originally it was just going to be for blind people, visually impaired. But then I started, at the time I was in school, and we started doing research on the suicide rate of veterans. And at the time, these guys from Wounded Warriors came down to the school, and we did like 2 hours with them, and I said, okay, this will work because there's a high per day. It's like a lot. I can't remember. It's numbers high, but a lot of vets, they kill themselves because, you come home from military life and you feel useless. There's nothing, 1 minute you're this, and a lot of people can't adjust. And so that was one reason, the suicide rate. And as for a lot of visually impaired people, the majority of us are heavy because I was. So the majority of having, and no matter what you do, because like I did kettlebells before Jiu Jitsu, I did a whole bunch of crap. I couldn't drop the weight. So a lot of us are heavy. A lot of us like to stay home. And now with the invention of DoorDash, Grubhub, and any other type of food thing, if you're a blind person and you have a smartphone, you don't even have to go to the grocery store anymore. In the old days, you had to walk. Now everything. So I decided that if I make this for visually impaired people and vets, so those two groups that need each other, because it's like a nice fit. It's like two puzzle pieces going together. So the organization I created an organization to get two things started. One, the blind person or the visually impaired person exercises, because we don't go to gyms. Nobody pushes anything. They just figure, and the vet the vet, whether they're disabled, suffering from PTSD or whatever it is, they won't want to kill themselves because they can these two groups will literally help each other, and they need each other. So that was the reason why I created that. And it's a 501c, so it's all on the up and up. If you donate, anybody who donates, you get a tax write-off. And it's pretty cool. The site has pictures and has some of my matches. Has a lot of different stuff.
What's the URL?
www.nolimitsjujitsufoundation.org.
Cool. And for those listening, I will have that in the show description. So yeah, make sure to click that and check it out.
If you forget, just punch in my name, Angel Adorno, and then put in No Limits Jiu-Jitsu. And it'll come up through the thing. Now, the reason I came up with that thing is because there's no, I said at the time, I'm thinking, okay, there's no limits. If you want to do it, you want to do it. Only limits that are out there are the limits that you put on yourself. So, and I've done a lot, and I've been in a position where people have told me, oh, no, you can't do this. And the more you tell me I can't do something, the more I'm going to try and prove you wrong.
Yeah,
So
I think that's a good mentality to have, and it pushes you to try, things differently, and especially when it comes to just physical exercise, just pushing your body to get in better shape, um, getting more comfortable and confident in moving your body. I think is basically, it sounds what you're promoting.
I'm promoting it's basically moving your body, but they had, it's I'm promoting the fact that there's more to what you think there is more of.
Gotcha.
That's all it basically is. And jujitsu, jujitsu is one of these things that it's an aerobic exercise. You burn calories, sort of aerobics. You burn calories. You use your mind. You get endorphins. There are a lot of positive aspects of this sport.
And it sounds like it's also you know its own community in itself. You
Oh yeah, yeah. I've gotten some great recommendations. I've gotten some great advice about just stuff from people who do jujitsu. And the funny thing is, everything they suggested or everything that it's like everybody like helps each other out. I mean, we'll make fun of each other in the locker room, but it's like that's it. The locker room is, you know,
Yeah. I think that, I mean, it sounds appealing to me,
oh yeah,
so I'm sure it sounds appealing to others. And I think, you know, uh, I think that's what's great about having you on this podcast, is that maybe people listening who would have maybe never even thought to consider something like jujitsu, maybe like, you just planted a seed for them. Maybe they'll
yeah.
investigate it. And
I hope so. 'Cause
I think that sounds what your organization wants to do too.
yeah, because once I become a purple belt, I'm actually going to start teaching. So my goal is I want to see if in the first 3 years I want to see if I could teach 1,000 people.
Wow.
Uh, you know, jujitsu and stuff. And I'm real thorough. So I'm like into details and since I go by touch, everything has to be a particular way. If it doesn't, I've had moves done on me, and I go, that didn't feel right. And they go, no, but that didn't feel right. And then they look at the move over again, and they go, oh, I forgot to do something. And I said, yep, I knew it. So, I'm like real thorough. So if I could teach, my goal is to teach at least 1,000 people. I also want to see if I can ever find a blind competitor, male or female, that I could train against, because it'd be an interesting, everybody that I've trained with or had matches with have been sighted.
Sure.
But match with somebody that on my level would be like a gourmet meal for me.
Well, if there's any blind listeners out there listening who practice jujitsu, you just heard that Angel wants to have a match with you.
Yeah, we could do something for charity, actually.
There we go. That'll be my first charitable event.
Oh
I'll
yeah.
gladly sponsor that.
Yeah, I've been trying. Yeah, eventually, once everything gets back into thing, I was gonna hopefully, and everything works out next year. I'm probably gonna have a, a, a charity event. It'd basically be a beach barbecue thing, and it's gonna be cool. There's gonna be a whole bunch of stuff raffled off, and for $20, you get to eat as much as you want, because competitors do eat. We burn a lot of calories, so it's gonna be nice once I set it up. I think if everything goes right, it's gonna be a Jones Beach, and it's gonna be, once everything is, and we're able to be around each other again.
Yeah. So I'm assuming coronavirus has really put a dampener on jujitsu.
Yeah, but the interesting thing is I got nervous about being fat, because in my comedy I make fun of heavy people. I'm like, oh, wait a minute, no, I can't become this. So my coach Spin, we did we he bought me a mat for my birthday, a heavy duty 5x10 folding jujitsu mat. And we do a session twice a week where we do mountain climbers and sprawls and everything and bands. So I still, my endurance is up. My, so my endurance is good. But if you're out from jujitsu for a while, you're off sync. It's like when you watch one of those movies that's been translated from whatever language to English, and you see the mouth moving, but the words that are coming out are delayed. So you'll see the words before his mouth moving. That's how my body feels when I'm not doing jujitsu for a while. Like
Mm.
I'm like 3 seconds delayed, and 3 seconds can mean a lot.
Yeah.
Mm.
That's unique. I have never heard it described that way.
Yeah.
Um, and I want to say I can relate to that, but I probably can't because I don't do I don't practice jujitsu.
Not yet. You will one of these days.
Hey, I'm open to it, and you're
Get
kind of
MK to
selling
help,
it. You're kind of selling it to me.
get MK to help you out.
I might have to. Yeah. So speaking of that, so say you wanted to get involved in jujitsu. How would you go about that? Do you just find a local place and then just kind of go?
Well, okay, here's the thing. When I first started out, I was working. And one day, I heard a lot about jujitsu from listening to the Joe Rogan podcast. Joe Rogan I've been listening to his podcast for like 4 years before that. Talk about jujitsu, talk about it. And one day I listened to his podcast when I was at the job. And when I was supposed to be working, I went on a computer and I looked for jujitsu studios near my job. And where I went, and I found three. So at the time, I figured, okay, let me go. Because jiu-jitsu studios you just can't go to a school. You have to get a nice vibe. It has to be a fit. You just can't go to one and think it's going to work out. So I went to the school twice. The first time I went to observe when I went to Clockwork. Second time, I took a free class. And the third time I went, I signed up. And, there were other schools, but I got, now, mind you, there's schools. The school is an hour away from my house. I live in Queens. This thing is in Manhattan. It's an hour away. Now I can go to other schools, but I feel comfortable where I'm at. And there are people that I read stories about that would bicycle ride 5 miles back and forth, this and that and this. So, so it's worth the sacrifice for me in time, because if I were to try a different school, I would have to start all over again. All my friends are in one place. And so, you know, look for a place that's near your house. Don't go by how many stars. You go by what it feels. Um, and there has to be enough room. Don't go to a place that's overcrowded, because you won't learn anything. You have to have professors there that'll show you this, whatever. So I chose this school, and I actually like it.
Yeah. If it sounds like your seems like your coach puts in a good amount of attention into making sure you're set up
Oh yeah,
properly. And I know MK, he seems to, from the stuff I see he posts on like Instagram and things like that, it seems like a good vibe there for sure. And that's
oh,
a
yeah.
clockwork Brazilian jiu-jitsu, right?
Yes, it's
Awesome.
in Lower Manhattan.
So
It's in the
shout out to
village.
them.
The only thing is, it's right next to a Wendy's, and that's the only downfall. You know, you go in the locker room and it smells like French fries, and then you're trying to get healthy, and you're doing this stuff, and all of a sudden Wendy's, and home of the Baconator.
Yeah, I think I might stop by that Wendy's every now and then and get like a Frosty or something.
I went there. Like maybe twice, and the owner of the school ruined it to one day. He goes, "Listen, they're not making their burgers like they were used to." And I don't know if it was hypnotic suggestion or something, but I had a burger and I'm eating it. And I'm like, whatever, this is not as good as it used to be. So
Hey, I believe it. I believe it. Cool, man. So I think we covered a bunch of information about you and how you practice jujitsu and the various benefits of it.
oh yeah, constant repetition. When you're a visually impaired person, repeat, repeat, repeat.
Yeah. So would you say outside of jujitsu, you have a few more things you're involved with? Yeah, I saw that you co-manage an online radio station called Heat FM Radio. FM
HeatFM
Radio.
radio. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. That's that. I've been doing radio broadcasting for almost 11 years.
Where can you listen to that? And what do you feature on your radio show?
Oh, okay. Well, right now the station, and I'm always looking for new talent. For like I do shows on the station, and I'm also program director. So I look for stuff like let's say hypothetically, if you wanted to do the podcast live, there we would just set up time, and you come on every week and do your thing. Um, the station has a lot of variety shows. Like there's one of them where I have the host of the show are one's an Android fan and his girlfriend's an iPhone fan, an iOS, and they go at it constantly. about which platform is better. It's called Apps and Gadgets, and it comes on Saturdays from 4 to 7. And then I also do, co-produce that sometimes when they need me. And then I do a show. I used to have a Yorkie a couple of years ago that I got from a puppy. And if anybody knows Yorkies are very sweet animals, but sometimes they're snots and they're little terrorists. So when this dog was alive, I created a show around him. So I gave him a voice. And every week he was, since I do the comedy writing, and every week he was always getting into stuff. Now he's between 9 to 10 pounds, but he was always doing human things, smoking. He has a human girlfriend, does gross stuff, argues with people, does whatever. And the interesting thing about the show is anybody who comes on the show, whether he talks to somebody or they listen, you always hear constant abuse, somebody being made fun of, or it's just a twisted show. And most people and most co-hosts, they like his shows start out and I'll do a little bit. Hold on, Alexa, play the Chicago Bulls theme.
Chicago Bulls theme song, Sirius, by Sports Machine.
He has his own music. He starts out to this. Alexa, volume 9. So basically he's like, so he's like a little dog, and he's like, he's little. And he starts on like, hey, welcome to another edition of the PD Radio. If you're offended by words, which I'm not gonna say a lot of them because a lot of them filthy. Blah 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 blah. Go in the corner and die. So he's always telling people to go in the corner and die.
I love that.
And instead of Angel, he calls me, how you doing, stupid? I'm doing fine. How are you? Or he'll start asking me stuff. And so how was your date? Well, it was, I don't care. So it Alexa, pause. It's gotten to the point where I've done the show and people think it's 2 people. And I also do voices. So there are times like he'll interview, like a couple of months ago, he interviewed the coronavirus itself, which that was real creepy because, myself, when he says he's going to interview what I said, look, I don't want to be here. So I ran away. And so he called me a puss, whatever. So we interviewed the coronavirus. He's interviewed, the devil. We also did a bit about what would happen if our current president would have went to jail. So do that. And then on Sundays, there's a show that I do, like this type of easy romantic show called The Rendezvous. And the funny thing about that show is I have 2,556 people that follow me on Facebook, right?
Yeah.
Because of the show, 1,700 of them are females.
Okay.
So right now I have, so because of the show, on the microphone, because I always sound like this,
It's a good radio voice for sure.
Yeah, when you start, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of The Rendezvous, whatever. So I do that, but the station is always looking for new talents, HeatFMradio.com. And we do stuff like talk shows, music shows, and it's all volunteer based. A lot of people that do this do it just to bring the word on, just to bring the word out, and the difference between my station and a lot of internet stations is you could do shows for, and there are stations that if you're doing a show, let's say with some people, if you're only doing a show with them, you're not allowed to branch out and do other shows everywhere. I don't do that. And if you want to do more shows and you want to bring more notoriety to yourself, go for it. As long as you do your hours with me, you can do whatever you wish. So, there's a lot of freedom, and I believe in self-expression. I don't bother anybody when they do their show unless their mics are off or whatever. I don't bother you. I don't haunt you. I don't do anything. In order to be an efficient manager and to be a good manager, you got to let your people be and let them do what they're going to do.
Yeah, I agree completely. And, I do this voluntarily myself. The benefit of being independent
Oh yeah,
is you can do whatever you want. I can bring whoever I want on this podcast. I can.
Yes, it's a beautiful thing. So my station is basically the same.
Right on. And if people want to listen in, again, that is heatfmradio.com.
Yes.
And I'll have that URL in the show description. Just click there and you'll be able to see where to connect at and listen in. Yeah, heatfmradio.com. And so, Angel, man, we've been chatting
man,
over an hour. It's been
Yes.
great. So I don't want to take up too much of your time.
Oh, no, please.
But at the end of each episode, my guest gets to give a shout out to a nonprofit or just any kind of charitable organization.
I got one.
Yeah. Do you have one you want to give a shout out to?
Yes. Like I told you, I had a little Yorkie a couple of years ago that passed away. I ended up finding this great organization. I adopted another Yorkie from them. And unfortunately, these dogs are older and, he ended up passing away 2019, a little bit while I was in school. So I ended up going back to the organization. Instead of getting one dog, I got two. They're older. That's another thing. Everybody always wants puppies. Nobody wants older dogs, and there are benefits to having older dogs. So I went, and the name of the organization is called Yorkie 911 Rescue.
Okay.
Or the Yorkie Rescue 911. Either way, the president, her name is Heidi, and they do a great job with all these little dogs, and they even have an Amazon thing, which I'm going to get, called Amazon Smiles, which I'm going to get that for my No Limits Jiu Jitsu thing. And the way Amazon Smiles works is, if you sign in through Amazon Smiles with your account, anytime you shop something, Amazon will give the charity a little percentage of what you buy, or what you bought. Meaning, if you blow $150, the Amazon will give the organization a percentage of that $150. So if 12 people go in and buy something, you get 12 donations. If 20 people go in for doing something you normally do. So Yorkie 911 Rescue is a beautiful place. I mean, they've changed my lives. I mean, I go in there. They're all the way up in Long Island. I'm talking about an hour away. You know what I mean? When I went up there, it would have, I only could have went on a weekend. So I love this place so much. I spent my own money to take an Uber up there. When you blow $120 just to adopt two dogs, it's a life-changing experience. So Yorkie 911 Rescue, if you can, donate, give dog food or give money. And if you want to adopt a dog, go on the page. They have some beautiful little animals.
Nice. But Angel, man, I think we covered everything that I want to cover right now. And
sorry if I kept on running off with the mouth.
Not at all. I think everything you said was great, and a lot of interesting bits of information, and just I learned a lot this episode in terms of the kind of the community aspect of jiu-jitsu and kind of its accessibility to the visually impaired or. So yeah, I'm gonna look into it myself, man. Don't be surprised if you.
Cool, because I got some information I want to give you after the show too.
Sounds good, Angel man. But yeah, Angel man, thanks a lot for your time, man.
No problem. I'm glad. Thank you for having me. And if you ever need me for anything again, please feel free to look me up.
Sounds great, man. Take care.
You too.
That does it for episode 8 of the See-Through podcast. Angel is definitely a character, and I'm super glad we were able to connect. And who knows, maybe I'll end up training with him here soon, and I can have a sweaty gi with him. While I have you, I wanted to mention again some of the organization Angel's discussed. Angel is the co-founder of the No Limits Jiu Jitsu Foundation. Angel also co-manages the radio show HeatFMradio.com. Angel also gave a shout out to Yorkie 911 Rescue, which is an organization comprised of dedicated volunteers who are passionate about rescuing, vetting, and rehoming Yorkshire terriers and other small dog breeds. Hey, and while we're giving shout outs to things, I wanted to do a little self-promotion myself. So if you're not currently following the podcast on social media, do me a huge favor and give us a follow. You can find us using the handle at @SeeThroughPod. There you can access links to episodes and find other content. You can also access all of this by visiting the website seethroughpod.com. Well, that's episode 8. So if this is your first time tuning in and you liked it and you were vibing with it, definitely go back and check out some of the older episodes, as I think you may dig the content. Anyways, this is Lance Johnson. I'll be back with episode 9 here soon. Take care and stay transparent.